Welcome to Fake Swords.
Real feelings.
Nice. The story of how two D&D players / martial artists got into the world of live action roleplay.
Or
AKA
LARP.
LARP.
As it's fondly known.
Fondly known, yeah. So yeah, what's LARP? Well, no, before we get into that, let's talk about what we're going to talk about.
Oh, introduce ourselves.
Introduce ourselves. Oh, that's a really good thing. They don't know who we are.
No.
So you used to do our other podcast.
Yeah, sorry.
We're like 30 episodes in.
We usually... Do you know what? I'm going to start that whole thing.
No, it's fun.
So for those of you who don't know, this is Dylan. I'm Jim. We are just two people. We do have a...
We're just innocent men.
we're just innocent men. We have a D&D podcast called Hearthfiretales, and we also do a little bit of martial arts, a little bit of nonsense, and most recently now LARP. So that's basically a nutshell on who we are. But to go into it a little bit more, we kind of got into all of this stuff with the turtles.
It really did. Shout out to Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I guess they are pivotal in everything we did.
Exactly.
Jackie Chan, I think, probably had quite a bit of an influence too.
Yeah, big time, and especially Jackie Chan Adventures.
See, Jackie Chan Adventures was really your thing. I never really watched it that much.
So good.
Like
all the episodes have been AI upscaled and uploaded to YouTube just for yourselves. Watch them. But okay, so that's
three minutes in, hard pivot to a Jackie Chan Adventures podcast.
That was a terrible segue into the wrong direction. So I am hard U-turning the content of this back to LARP and us. So we got into the turtles.
Thanks, Turtles.
Thanks, Turtles. But basically,
can you put in that
the sword
fell down. Okay. Can you put in that really old YouTube clip of us I like turtles?
Yeah, of course I can.
Because
here it comes.
I like turtles.
And that's relevant content. Anyway, we do LARP.
We do LARP.
And the LARP that we go to is called Empire. And Empire is super, super cool. It's got pretty much everything that you can think of when you think of a fantasy world.
So to define it, Empire is a festival LARP. So basically what that is, it spans 3 days. It's huge in scale. It's fully immersive. And I think they're looking at 6,000 people this event? Something wild like that.
Yeah, I think 6,000, not 6,000 players, but 6,000 people, because there's 2,000 staff
and reps
and volunteers. Traders and stuff like that come into it. Yeah, it's huge. It's huge.
To put it in context, the field itself is 1 kilometer along each edge, comprising of multiple nations.
10 nations.
Don't ask me to list them on the spot.
Oh God. Actually, I'm going to ask you to list them on the spot right now. Go.
Okay, let's do it. There's going in from the OC car park. There is Wintermark. There is Dawn. There is the Brass Coast. There is Highguard. There is the friendly ones that I like going to at night with the fire, and they don't like spirits. Varushka. Yes, I always get them in Wintermark mixed up.
Yeah.
There's Varushka. There is the Marchers.
Yeah.
There is the Imperial Orcs.
Yeah.
There is Navarre.
Yeah.
I have done my tour in my head.
There's the Italian Renaissance people.
The League. Yes, there's the League. I marched them in with the Marchers because they both just want to be Dawn.
And then there's the other people who want to be Dawn.
Who are they?
The guys who are actually really good at martial combat. Who are actually...
they're the Marchers.
No.
The League.
No, the League are good at dueling.
But now I've got them all with the inclusion of the Marchers.
No, Highguard.
Highguard, but I said Highguard.
Did you? Oh, well,
yeah, no,
sorry.
Highguard are what Dawn should be.
Yeah.
Actually,
Highguard are like Dawn if Dawn actually trained and didn't just individually glory charge at every problem in sight and had,
I can't
discipline.
count the amount of times we've been saved by Highguard.
Too many times.
But what these nations are is basically the Empire is kind of it's an empire. It's a sovereign empire.
It's a living, breathing. When you're there, you're living it.
I mean, I've been thinking a lot about this, and I mean, it's real for all intents and purposes.
Yeah,
being in it, it's got a living ecosystem. You know, it's got enough people in it to warrant it having.
It's bigger than a lot of villages in Ireland.
It's bigger than the town we live near.
Yeah.
You know, so I'm counting it as real. And if you're in Empire and you go repel, they're going a good distance that way. So the magic works to a degree. But internally.
Basically, if you're coming at at this from our other content, you know, there are a set of rules in the LARP and Empire. Each LARP has their own rule set, but like I think what sets Empire apart is that like the buy-in to the rules, to the world, to everything is like so high.
Yeah.
Like, not to sit above and shit down onto our American counterparts, but like we were talking about American LARPs, and just like the scale and how everything is just so cool. I'm
gonna say from what we've seen, because obviously we've not been to an American LARP yet, but we did an awful lot of, well, I did an awful lot of research into LARPs before, and we'll get into this before we went to our first Empire LARP. But basically, like, I think the difference that I'm seeing is just the level and the scale, and the fact that Empire manages to maintain a very high level of immersion at that scale. Because each of these 10 nations has a very, very strict brief.
Yeah.
That hands in the air, we did not hit the first time.
Oh, God, no. God, no. That's what I'm saying about it's the buy-in. It's because there's so much, you know, it has its own set of social norms that like aren't rigidly enforced in a strict, someone comes over and tells you, but like everyone just does it, and like the culture around it is so top tier and so makes you want to be part of it.
You get in there and it's like the egregore magic, right? Where you find yourself going in that direction, that even if that wasn't your original plan and you want to do something else, suddenly you're just living and breathing the Dawnish way, or living and breathing the Anvil way, because that's just how things are done.
That's how things are done, yeah. It's a perfect example of going into a culture and just having to be fully immersed into it, and part of that is doing what the other people around you are doing.
It does have a very similar feeling as to, like, if you, so say like you go to college in like Cologne or something, you know? It has a similar feeling of just being dropped into a new culture, and you're kind of walking the streets of this medieval city, like, you know, this tent city that you're like, wow, this is real. Like, someone just walked by me with a little cart of apples, selling apples. That's their game. They're here selling apples, like, you know?
Let's talk about game, actually. So just in terms of like, well, it's all very good for us to sit here and be like, oh yeah, Empire's great and it's got all this, but like, what does that involve? Maybe I think we should talk about.
Because I feel like it's such a big, I kind of felt like we were prepared for this, but it's so big that now I feel like we're talking about little bits here and there.
This is it.
That, like, the viewer coming from Hearthfire content is going to be like,
yeah,
I have no idea what any of this is.
They're used to us absolutely being all over the place to an extent. But, yeah, so I mean, really, the best way to describe it is that it is a fantasy world, and you go and you live in that fantasy world.
You just exist in it.
You just exist
for
in it.
3 days.
And whatever you can imagine doing in a fantasy world, you can do. So if you want...
within reason.
Within reason.
Like, there are kind of like very clever rules and laws in place, and game facets in place to prevent certain things. But for the most part, like, if you can dream it...
Sorry, let's say...
You can do it. Thought he was going to pick up on the you can do it side of that.
I don't know what that is.
Neither do I, but it sounded cool.
I can't mind read.
You can't mind read in Empire. That's just as a... Maybe you can. We're not sparkly people. We don't do the magic.
You know, you can read people's souls, but not their minds.
Yeah, I guess because it's very hard to read someone's mind in real life.
Yeah. But yeah, so like if you want to go for a weekend, dress up as a knight, run into a field and beat the shit out of an orc, you can do that. If you want to...
I will say, it's probably more likely the orc will beat the shit out of you. Speaking as a very competent sword person...
Yeah.
I've died.
Yeah, you have. That's a story for another episode, I think. Yeah, if you just want to go and get drunk in fantasy taverns, you could do that, because there's also...
If you just want to reskin your drinking.
Yeah, there's also like an in-character economy where you get money and stuff like that. So also then if you want to be a trader and go around and, like, you know, trade resources, because like, oh yeah, my character owns a herb garden, so I've got loads of these herbs to sell. Off you go. Here, Mr. Apothecary, you can make these into potions.
And for a lot of people, that's their game, is like purely playing the economic game as well. Like, you know, and like I'd love to be able to. I don't have the savvy to do it, you know, but I'd love to be able to.
It seems like a lot of work.
Yeah.
And I appreciate people who do that, and that's why I can't afford anything at these LARPs.
I've made 2 failed gambits into it so far. Roll on number 3.
Yeah. I still think Parge is going to be the. If you're watching this in the past. No, in the future.
In our future, but your past now.
If you're watching this in your past now, and you've heard the story of the Glade Warden Porridge, everything will have been successful. And if you haven't, well, we're on to business number 10. This idea, which you probably have also failed.
Yes.
But yeah, you can do everything in Empire. Basically, whatever you want, really.
Yeah. Like, I always remember my first night there, and we just, like, I think I was freshly dead. And I had rolled up a new character first night 1, character 2, and I was just wandering around Anvil, just taking it in, because it was just, I said, this is the first night here, I just want to be amazed by it, because I was floored the second my foot hit the grass in Anvil. I was like, this is incredible, and I was walking along, just walked into a tavern, walked into, what's the name of it, Moorish. I was like, a real ass fucking tavern.
Yeah, it's like
just an orc at a table, locked eyes with me, gave me a glare, and I was like, "Oh, better keep going." Walked across the road into the Senate, another real building, which at that point was a dance studio.
Studio. That implies there's like classes going on.
They do classes in it at some point. I think.
Probably do.
But no, I think that's something that's done. Somebody teaches dance there. But
you can write. Sorry to cut across you, but we were going on like what's called a skirmish, which was part of like the combat game, and we were going out, and between when you travel to go on a skirmish, there's a brief period where you're out of character, but we had to be very, very quiet because we were walking past this other group who were having an in-character session, and it was a smut reading competition.
That was very funny.
Whatever you can think of, it's there.
It's there, 100%. It's there, and even for like kids and stuff. Like, so that's huge in the immersion. Is like, there's the academy. So like, you be walking along, like on your way to a battle in this city of Anvil, and there's just like kids running like between your feet and stuff on their way to the academy, where they learn like coloring and sword fighting.
Yeah,
you know,
it's cool.
So like the twin disciplines. But I mean,
it's the only thing a growing child needs:
coloring and swords.
Finally, they can answer the age-old question. What's more powerful?
The pen or the Crayola or the sword?
The crayon or the fake sword?
Or the foam sword, yes. So like, long story short, it's just wildly immersive. And you get that like slap in the face when you arrive, just like, this is a living, breathing world here. And there is a huge amount of people just absolutely buying into it. And just in that buy-in, generate. And pumping out more and more stories. And the more stories people make and the more interactions you have with other people, the more it grows as a living and breathing organism, you know? And that's the real magic of Empire.
So yeah, why don't we talk about, and I'm very aware that you just talked for a lot, but I'm going to make you talk even more.
I love talking.
Why don't we talk about why we chose Empire, or more accurate to say, why you chose Empire and I was kind of dragged along.
Yeah, okay.
Not against my will.
No, absolutely, absolutely. The year was 2021. The world had fallen into chaos. So, Dylan was getting married.
I really hope you leave in these pauses.
Let me just check that it's actually still going. And I'm leaving this in if it... Yes, okay, here's a story for you. Tax law in the EU won't let cameras record for more than half an hour. Okay, yes, so it was 2021, wasn't it?
I mean, I got married in 2022.
Yeah, so it would have been 2021.
I don't know when. I don't know when 2020 pandemic happened.
Okay, so right.
I don't know when you started planning this. No one's gonna fact check you on this, really. They might fact check on you when the pandemic started.
That will fact check me. The year was 2020. The world had fallen into disarray. A global pandemic swept every nation, and everybody was really sad and locked inside. But Dylan was going to get married next year.
And I did it too.
He did it.
I was successful.
He was. He didn't have a partner at the time, but he decided he was going to get married within the year.
Don't need to. There's a lot of willing people out there, and they'll
This is one of those weird weddings where he's just married an object. This is his partner. No, Dylan.
Blade is my bride.
A real Glade Warden thing to say.
Yeah.
No, Dylan was actually doing a secret wedding.
Yeah.
Secret wedding. Secret wedding.
Well, it wasn't a secret wedding, it was a surprise. Well, it was a surprise wedding. It was a secretly planned wedding.
Yeah, and the only people in on it were his partner, who actually did exist. Okay, I'll come clean, peek behind the curtain.
Yeah, she did. She's real.
He has a partner. And me and my wife. So I was like, you know, I wasn't even allowed to do much for it because it's a secret. I was like, I can't plan anything for the wedding. So I was like, ruminating.
Also, obviously, just point out, Jim was my best man.
Yeah.
And so
I'm
obviously,
just generally the best man. But
the big part of, you know, the best man's duties are, of course,
the stag party. And I was like,
which he couldn't do.
How do I do a stag party with just the two of us? Like, how do I? And I was thinking, can I do a stag party but just not let anyone else know that's what it is and stuff? And I was like, no, I've got to.
Like, that would be so weird.
It would be so difficult, and I don't have the charisma to pull that off. So I said, I'll do that with just Dylan. I'll just say I'm doing something else and bring him along and surprise him with a stag party. And I know that Dylan had been looking at LARP for a long time as something he really wanted to do.
We both had.
We play a whole heap of D&D. Again, we have like a D&D podcast. We do D&D live shows. Like, we have a D&D brand. Go look it up.
Hearthfire
Tales. Always straight rapid.
Do you want to talk about Wayoftheheron this as well?
Oh yeah, okay. We also have Way of the Heron, which is a sword fighting channel we do. Here's a clip. It's probably still playing over me. Look at that! Wow!
Oh my god! Oh, I've really got it there.
How can they be so stylish and yet so efficient?
Dead.
Anyway, we have Way of the Heron, where we teach the sword fighting forms from the Wheel of Time as an actual martial art. It's real fun, but it's also really niche, so I'm going to stop talking about it now. But there are two likes. We like role playing and we like sword fighting. So basically, I was like, what can I do that he'll enjoy? And I know that he'd been looking at like Drakenfest and stuff as something we really, really wanted to go to. So I started looking into LARPs, and at the time, the world was in disarray and we couldn't get out of the country. So I was like, okay, well, I'll plan it for down the line. And then I saw that Empire was actually still going to go at that point. So I was like, right, fine. Booked me 2 tickets to Empire on an absolute whim. And then just fucking Dylan.
I'm waiting for a good opportunity to arise. As I'm thinking ahead of what you might say, I'm like, there's going to be
anywhere.
Edit this out.
Okay, fine. Right. So, anyway, I was saying, yeah, I mean, Empire is still. It looked like it was going to go ahead. So I was like, great, that's what I'll do. Perfect. It's only in the UK. It's a quick jaunt. At that point, the borders between those two countries were quasi open. So I was like, we can probably get over to it, you know? But then, you know, I was like, how do I plan this without letting Dylan know? Because my plan that I had construed in my head was that I wanted to.
Also, had you brought in Sarah at this point?
I had the whole time along I had told Sarah, which is Dylan's partner. So we had a Wario chat where we'd come up with plans, and every time we did something, we'd send that gif of Wario going like, eh. But I had said, I'm gonna just tell him it's something else, and then just drop him in this world, like, you know. God, I was so naive.
Which, like, if you didn't catch on from our first 15 minutes where we talked for 50 minutes and couldn't explain anything about Empire in any sort of coherence, imagine being dumped into that.
Yeah. And if anything, it just proves how bad a best man I am. Because Dylan likes to prep for things.
I love to be prepped.
As evidenced by this laptop.
Yes.
But yes, prepping our show on zebras next. But yeah, no, so I came up with this ridiculous story of I was like, oh, hey, look, I met a guy through Hearthfire, and he's developing his own RPG system, and he wants us to do a test play of it. So I have this character system here that I'd love you to make a character in. And then
I actually forgot this.
He was like, yeah, no problem. When are we playing? And I was like, it's not important. Just make a character for me, please.
But obviously, the first question I asked is like, give me the details.
And I was like, Oh, he hasn't got them sorted out yet. The only thing he has planned so far is he's betaing the character creation system, and I was like, it's very simple compared to D&D. Like, you only get like, you have like 4 hit points and you get like 3 or 4 abilities, and you can be a hitty person or a sparkly person. And Dylan was like, right, whatever, I'll do this like 5 minutes beforehand because and I was like, just make the fucking character.
I mean,
but then basically I was like, right, I can do the heavy lifting here, and I started being like, right, I'm gonna just make all our lore and our house. And I was like, I know Dylan like back of my hand at this point, and I know that he likes trees and he likes swords, and I like trees and I like swords, so we're gonna have a house that likes trees and likes swords. Look, they're right here. And
yeah, right here. Oh, by the way, welcome to our forest office.
This is our nature office.
Nature office.
You're welcome. Come in. The water is in the river if you need some. But yes, so I made House Glade Warden, and then I was like, I was getting out of my depth then. So I jumped on the forums and I was like, this is our plan. We want to be forest knights. And I drew a little picture. I'll see if I can find it and put it up. But I drew a little picture of what ideally we should look like.
And the response was, what, Jim?
I was a resounding like, what the fuck are you doing?
Yeah, basically like, fuck no, you can't.
People were being so friendly because I was like, oh, we're in the forest. So I thought we'd be in Navarre. And like, I think it was Jeffrey Willoughby was like super helpful on the forums and was like, I mean, you can do that, but people are going to look at you like you have 2 heads. Maybe consider Dawn. And then like the thread was like 70, 80 replies long.
Yeah, I remember you showing me afterwards. I was like,
people were astoundingly helpful. I came in knowing nothing.
That really sold me on it kind of afterwards, because I was like, because it's such a big, intimidating thing to get into, but like, the people are so welcoming. Everyone's really wants to help you. Going back to that social kind of like, social pressure, social conformity thing. Like, it's positive pressure, and like, people want you to be part of that community and stuff as well.
Because it benefits them.
Because it benefits everyone.
It benefits everyone for you to be in it.
Yeah.
But they were in it in that thread, and they were like, they were like, oh, you should try Dawn. And I was like, and I kind of want to give him some quests over the week, because it's like, oh, he has to prove himself for his love back in wherever we came from. I was told we couldn't be from outside the Empire, which is great because I planned from being from somewhere else. And every Empire player is like rolling their eyes at me now. But I got the bulk of the house, and that he was going to be like a knight errant, and I was going to be, like the knight giving him his testamental and all this stuff. So like, even then I was kind of soaking in Dawnish culture and lore without realizing.
Dawn made perfect sense. When Jim got told what Dawn was,
I was like, that's the shot. Like,
Yeah.
Like I was up on Noble Bark sailing straight towards Dawn, Noble Bark I steer. Somebody will get it, and please let me know you got it.
I don't.
But anyway, the time came that the world got shit again and they cancelled it. And I was like, I was at a hype level that I am now with Empire 3 Days in the Future.
Yeah.
And it was cast away. You all felt it too, right? So like, I was like, ugh. And I was back in the dregs, and I was like, gotta wait another like 3 months for this. This is shit. And my hype needed fuel. So I was like, should I just tell him? And then I was saying it to Sarah, and she was like, yeah, he kind of needs something now as well. Like, maybe we should just tell him. So we rang him, and I don't know why we both rang him. It was on a conference call, like, with his wife, who was in the house with him. But, like, we were like, we're bringing you to Empire. And then I'm glad I did that, because Dylan was all immediately like, oh, fuck, I gotta practice, I gotta learn, I gotta study and deep dive. And I was like, oh, the wiki is, like, bigger than 5 Bibles. So I'm real glad I didn't just drop you in it,
Yeah.
And there are elements.
See, the thing is, looking back on it now, I think, had you just dropped me in it, and we would have survived, but we would not have had nearly as good a time.
No, we wouldn't have had half the fun.
Like, we wouldn't have known what was going on. We would have probably pissed other people off.
We would have been terrified of ruining other people's games.
Yeah. But the worst part would be, we wouldn't even know how much we're ruining other people's games as well.
Yeah.
Like, we'd be aware of some of it, but then probably would have overstepped, and then you'd be like, oh, it's these 2 guys and Dawn who have no fucking clue what's going on.
Yeah, and I had planned on kind of like guiding you through it, and I was like, oh, that works for the roleplay because I'll be the experienced.
Oh yeah, it would have been.
No, even in my first one, I used that. Oh, it's my first time in Anvil. I'm new to Anvil probably like 80, 90 times over the course of the weekend. Like, you know, I was dropping out of character left, right, and center just from confusion. You know, I was damaging myself in my confusion so much, but certain elements of it did follow true. So like we did say that he was going to have to do all this stuff for his love back XYZ right up until like halfway through the first day when we realized there's enough in this game that we don't have to do this. It's just throwing enough shit at us that like we don't need our own story here, you know? Like I don't want to jump too much into like what happened at our first event.
No, we'll get into
that. But like we immediately found our people in you know, like that. Like within 20 minutes of time in.
Yeah. Shout out to the Emerald Lance.
Yeah, shout out to the Emerald Lance. But like from then on in, we were just kind of hooked, and we were House Glade Warden, and it's taken up an obscene amount of time and money ever since.
Obscene. Yeah, because like I think it's because when you guys told me, and as you said, Jim, where I was like, oh my god, there's like so much to learn, and like when I first started delving into it, I'm like, okay, this is fine, and I was like, 10 nations? I'm like, okay, fine, I need to learn one apart, and then it's like, oh no, the one nation obviously interacts with everyone else because it's an empire, and then it's like, oh, well, we just want to fight, and that's like, okay, but you also need to know all of this geopolitical history and stuff to understand anything about the context of
it. Sorry, to cut across, you don't need to know. You don't need, if you're a new player and you're like, oh, I want to go to Empire, don't be intimidated. The whole thing we're saying here is that what we were trying to do, which is deliberately go in blind, was foolhardy.
Yeah.
But there is a whole heap of resources. Is that a word? Heap? There's a heap of resources online. Just absolute nutshells of here's like a guide to Anvil in a nutshell, and you can get what you need in a 5-minute video, you know, and the rest you will learn on the field. So don't be intimidated like, oh, I need to know all this stuff. You don't.
Yeah.
But just don't do it the way we were going to do it, because that is foolhardy.
Yeah. But like we did it, you know, in 3 days' time. It's going to be my 3rd event, your 4th event. So I mean, like, you can do it too. It's possible. Like,
and you should do it.
And you should do it.
You should do it, because like, let's face it, it's if you're nerdy and you're geeky and you like this kind of stuff and you play Dungeons and Dragons, you play video games, if you like Skyrim, you know, it's
and like it's not a physical LARP as such. Like, there's so many accessibility features, like accessibility aids, like, you know, if you use a wheelchair, canes, anything like that, they are in character always. So like, there's, you know, the barriers to entry are a lot low. Now it is camping which can put people off, but you could.
There's
sleep.
Also
there's hotels
not
and
far
stuff
from
like that,
the site,
or probably a B&B or something you could find. So like, the barriers to entry are quite low. So it's definitely,
and you don't need a big in-character tent, because there's out-of-character camping grounds as well, where you can just go with, like, you know, your Vango 2000 and like, I know people who went to E1 and submit to its will.
There's a nice throwback that
very
no people will get that.
Literally no one will get.
If you're at the parkour camping trip in
2002 maybe. Yeah, but like, I know people at E1 who slept in their car, you know?
Yeah.
Don't advise it, but they did it.
Yeah,
you know?
you could.
But yeah, look, I think it's like absolutely the next step for you as a nerd, and I'm talking to you.
Yeah.
It's what you need to do now.
It's worth going just once.
Yeah.
Because you could go not knowing much. You could go literally just as a tourist.
Yeah. And some people do. They go as Anvil tourists.
Yeah.
You know?
And you just go around. You don't have to go for the full weekend. If you just want to rock up on the Saturday, just go in, walk around, drink in the ambience. Okay, it's probably a little bit pricey to just do that, but you could.
Yeah.
Because no one is stopping you. No one's checking you at the gate being like, do you know all the rules for your character? Who's the current empress? Blah, blah, blah. You know, nothing of that happens. No one is telling you what you can or can't do realistically.
It's completely and utterly open and welcoming. And it wants you there.
We want you there.
Yeah, I almost said it wants you in it.
Empire. It wants you in it.
On that note,
On that note, we want you in our comment section because I think it's going to go on YouTube.
it's going to go on YouTube and it's going to be a video podcast and also a regular podcast if
So much of this is not going to translate to a regular podcast, I don't think.
I'm going to upload it anyway.
Yeah, it'll be fine.
It's just an incentive for you there with the ears. I'm in your ears and I'm telling you to now watch it on a visual medium as well.
Yeah.
We'll take the other view and we'll thank you kindly. But yeah, look, let us know if you like this. And if you are here at this point still, like 35 minutes into this thing,
Thanks.
thanks. Yeah.
Yeah,
We'll see you on the field.
Check out our... Can we plug our other stuff?
Absolutely. That's why we're doing this.
Yeah, nice. Shameless cross-promotion time, alright? Listen to Hearthfiretales. It's a D&D podcast set in Lethwan, land of might, magic, and metal! Where everything is kind of based around music references.
Yep.
Jim plays a Dad Rock Paladin.
Yeah, Dad Rock Paladin. Hi, how's it going? I'm Colin Greystone. I'm a cranky old fuck.
And Ryan, who's not featured here, probably will never be featured here because he doesn't understand the whole LARP thing, which is fair. It's not for everyone, even though it should be, and it is.
He's problematic and argumentative. Be glad he's not here.
He can cry on command. He should be at Empire.
He's like wildly outclasses us at roleplay, and I'm just bitter that he won't come.
Yeah. Yeah, so check out that. Also check out my podcast called Roleplay Review. It's an actual play book club, so it's like a book club but for actual play podcasts. So if you're into the likes of, well, we're not going to ever, cover Critical Role. They don't, frankly, need a review.
Yeah.
Neither do Dimension 20, but
they can cover us.
Yeah. It is a podcast where basically me and two friends sit down, listen to actual play podcasts, and then just chat about them and discuss maybe why you want to listen to them too. It's pretty good. And then check out Wayoftheheron.
Check out Wayoftheheron. I take one of these and I put it in one of these. Right, I've killed him again. Goodbye, everybody. We'll see you in the next one when we talk about Dawn and House Gladewarden, the greenest and goldest house in the Emerald Lance.
And the house that's on the cusp of guidelines.